People start to judge before they know where these young ladies have been. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that the pregnancy is a symptom. As Elvis Presley once sang, walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes. If you walk a mile in their shoes, you will see all kinds of trauma, neglect, beatings, rape, molestation. The list goes on and on. Women like former client Natasha, whom I met at Urban Ministries. She was homeless. And she told me that in the homeless camps, in order to not get raped at night, you have to have a boyfriend to protect you. Well, in exchange for being your boyfriend and that protection, that boyfriend wants sex. And what happens when you have sex? Sometimes you get pregnant. Or girls like Jackie. She said that after she was raped from age 7 to 15 by her older stepbrother, she became promiscuous because, as she said it, I had control over my body. I could choose who I wanted to have sex with. Or girls like Michelle, who lost both her parents before she was 14 years old and lived in 11 different foster homes. But she still says, everything I went through only serves to make me stronger. The shoes of these young women have been places that no girl should ever go. They have been wet and muddy. The heels have been broken and the soles are worn. At Florence, Crittendon, our goal is to give them a new path to walk, a safe path, where they learn to protect their children and to teach them that they are important and loved, so that their little girls don't go looking in the wrong place for attention and affection. A path that includes all the joys of childhood and all the success that hard work affords. A path where they can give their babies a new pair of shoes and teach them to walk in a different direction. We want their shoes to walk to summer camps and down the aisles for their high school graduations. We want their shoes to walk on college campuses so that we can break this cruel cycle of emotional distress, poor parenting, poverty, teen pregnancy, and abuse. That is our goal, and with your help, we can make it a reality. Now, I would like to introduce you to two of our board members, Matt McCarley and Katie Becker.
Graduating from law school. I also shared with you that my last year of law school, I had an opportunity to speak at a congressional briefing. And that really changed my perspective. And for the first time, I understood that I could advocate in a way that didn't have to include a courtroom. After graduation, I decided to wait a year before I sat for the bar. I just wanted some time to kind of get my sanity back. And in that time, I continued with the policy work with the National Crittendon Foundation, and I traveled all over the United States, many times to DC, to engage lobbyists, legislators, think tankers, social justice advocates on issues of poverty, chaos, dysfunction. And I found that I was able to utilize both my personal experiences and my law degree to inform my contributions. So that grace year, it came and went. And I was still kind of stalling on the bar. And so I had a few good mentors have a come to Jesus with me, as the saying goes, and tell me, just sit already. But what I didn't know how to tell anyone was that I was terrified of failing the bar. I was afraid that if I failed the bar, all these folks that had supported me for all these years would would be disappointed and turn their backs on me. So many of you in this audience have supported me, just as you support Florence Crittendon. Children's Klein has continued to sponsor a table at this luncheon, even after I left the company to pursue that policy work. I have a friend from high school here, and several friends from college. I have a criminal procedure professor sitting in the back. I have mentors, a former boss, and so many of you in this audience that I've had the chance to meet through this luncheon. All of your words of encouragement have inspired me, but it also, for me, created this huge sense of obligation. I didn't want to let any of you down. Fear got the best of me. I sat for the February bar riddled with anxiety. So it is no surprise that I cried most of that drive down to Raleigh for the exam, and that a month later, I found out I was not successful. Here's one thing that bar experience showed me. Sometimes when we come from less than, we feel like we have a whole lot to prove. I didn't have parents that provided me with affection, stability, and support. For me, growing up, most of my childhood, there was no certainty of a roof over our heads, or enough food to eat, or clothes and shoes that fit. My parents didn't have a network for me to access. I didn't go to the best schools, and sometimes I lived in unsafe neighborhoods. But to me, it's not so much about the haves and the have-nots as it is about the degrees of separation between us all. I'm grateful that my story resonates with so many of you, and I'm grateful that it helps to illustrate the critical work that Florence Crittendon does in this community.